We hear it all the time. Work on yourself, fix yourself, improve yourself. But what if all that self-work is actually the reason you feel burnt out and stuck, or even feeling worse about yourself? This is something that I had to learn the hard way. After chasing every routine, reading every book, trying every habit and hack that there was, I eventually ended up hitting a wall. And it wasn't because I wasn't trying hard enough or optimizing correctly. It was because I was trying too hard. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I'm Jeff Turner, and over the last half decade, I have been working in mental health, training the next wave of peer support workers. And in this video, I want to explore what I have experienced to be the dark side of self-help, why too much of it can backfire, and what you can do instead. By the end, you'll walk away with 3 ways that I found to make personal growth feel more lighter, more fun, and honestly more sustainable. While it all looked impressive on the outside, the truth is on the inside I was feeling miserable. I didn't understand why I was doing all of these things that all of the self-help books and YouTube videos were telling me to do, but I constantly felt like I was behind or like I was failing. And it was a struggle and frustrating because these were the things that were supposed to make me feel better. And I've decided to make this video because through my time as a peer support worker and training people to become peer support workers, I found that a lot of people have this sentiment. And I don't believe it's because people aren't working on themselves hard enough, but it might be because people are working on themselves too hard. Instead of having it be something that's fun and explorative, it's being treated like a full-time job or some type of goal with a means to an end. And that could be the dark side of self-help, when self-help stops helping and it starts hurting. And for all you stats people out there, yes, there is science to back this up. When personal growth starts to feel like pressure instead of choice, what happens is your brain starts to tag it as stress. Of course, stress does what stress does. It shuts down motivation, it drains focus, and it can oftentimes leave you feeling stuck, so that almost like your tires are spinning in the mud. The more you try, the worse things seem to get. So in this video, I want to share 3 ways that I shifted my perspective on self-help and self-work. Hopefully that these 3 shifts you can apply into your own life and your own mental wellness journey, and hopefully they help. Shift number 1, the concept of play versus grind. Now, when I started my mental health and wellness journey, I thought that finances were the root of all of my problems. I was in debt, I wasn't making a lot of money, so I naturally turned to finance books and finance gurus and people on the internet talking about budgeting advice, things like that. And what I found was the real secrets, although very, very helpful and still things that I practice today, they're really, really boring. Spend less, pay yourself first, invest, rinse and repeat. All of this stuff, not very exciting and not very fun. What made it worse was the people and the things that I was getting the advice from, they kept using things like hustle and grind, and this was just sort of the way it was. You know, building morning routines, cold showers, 50 push-ups before breakfast, wake up at 4:30 a.m. Again, all things that are very, very helpful, but none that had really fit my life. I ended up with this weird split and this weird conflict inside of me. When I was spending money and kind of living life, I was spending money and doing things recklessly. When I was saving money, life was so structured, and honestly, life kind of felt dead. As a right-brain creative person, I quickly realized that I needed 2 things. I needed to make money fun, and I had to find fun that didn't cost money. So what I did was I decided to shift my perspective and turn money into a game that I could play. Dollars were points. If my debt went down and my savings went up, I was winning. Very, very simple. I started finding ways that I could make a little extra money, but they were fun ways, or at least fun for me. I started DJing weddings. I started a dog walking, animal house sitting venture. I even found some random art that I had around my house. I was selling that online. It kind of made me feel like an artist. Now, at the time, all of that was great, and it was helping me with money, and subsequently helping myself with money was actually helping my mental wellness. But the biggest shift came when I found fly fishing. Honestly, at this point in my mental wellness journey, the concept of self-care was sort of losing its allure. It was losing its charm. It felt shoved down my throat, and I never really could grasp the concept of what it meant. everything was working on feeling better, was working on getting better. So when I would do things for self-care, it almost felt like I had to put in time and energy and go to work to do self-care to feel better. When I would go fishing, I noticed that the simple act of studying the river, studying the fish, studying the flies, it had nothing to do with catching fish. It was just being out on the water, being out in nature, watching the hawks fly above me, watching the fish catch things, seeing beavers. It was just existing, and it became more valuable than any dollar amount. When I took the same concept that I had about money, and as opposed to constantly trying to grind my self-care routine, I noticed that my mind started to shift more, and I could slowly start to put that type of thinking into everything that I did for my mental health and wellness. And my mental health and wellness journey felt way less like work and slowly became way more valuable and more fun. So the first lesson that I learned is growth doesn't always have to feel like a grind. It can feel like play, and it can feel like fun. Pick something that's new, pick something that's old, take a new spin on it, approach it from a different angle. Just go in to enjoy it. Don't have any expectations, and you might be surprised at how it can make your self-help and wellness journey feel lighter and feel more like growth and more like fun and more like play, and really something that you want to do. Shift number 2, create your own practice. Earlier, I had talked about how I had to make things fun and playful, and once I started doing that, I started realizing something else. Most of the routines, most of the things that I was following from self-help books, from self-help gurus, from therapists and everything, all of these routines and practices, they weren't mine. Yes, still very valuable, still things that I take pieces from today, but I never really felt like I was in control of my own mental health and wellness journey. I often found myself going into this cycle where I would read about the perfect routine or the thing that I needed to do. I would do it for a little bit, I would feel really good, and then I would miss a day or two and immediately start feeling guilty, and somehow I ended up feeling worse than when I had started. That's when something became very clear to me. Having a regimented schedule of taking care of myself, it didn't really suit my lifestyle. My schedule changes, life happens, and guilt crept in anytime I slipped. So I started creating my own practices. For me, it started with journaling. Sitting down to write every day is something that comes natural. It comes very easy to me. But doing the same thing over and over and over always got boring. So what I did was I started mixing it up. I started finding other ways of journaling that maybe I didn't know about or I hadn't tried. I did invent little 7-day challenges for myself. Again, going back to that points thing, every time I did it, I would give myself points. I would check in with myself at the end of the week and see how well I did. Sometimes I'd take 3 or 4 practices and I would string them together in, say, like a 7-day challenge, and I would start creating these little tiny mini courses for myself. If you're interested in building your own mental wellness practice, here is a very simple and condensed way that I got started. So first, learn something or anything, or take an insight. This can be something that you've already been doing. This can be something that you've always wanted to try. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to try this for a while. See how you feel and see if it works. If it works and it's continually working, great. Maybe you don't need to try to reinvent the wheel. But if it's not, what I did was I would find a second practice and I would try to add that practice into the first one that I was already doing. So for example, I was really working hard on visualizing and practicing visualization. So what I would do is I would sit down and I'd write in my journal my dream for my future. After a while, this kind of got stagnant. At the same time, I was also trying to add meditation into my practice. So what I would do is I would write down my visualization in my journal, then I would sit down to meditate, and I would try to take not the vision of what I journaled, but the feelings. And I would try to capture the feelings from the visualization. And while I was meditating, I would focus on that. It's not like a completely clean, completely perfect way of developing your own practice, but you can see how you can take two things, combine them, and slowly start to unravel your own version of your own mental wellness journey. I truly believe that the moment that I took ownership, that's when things stopped becoming homework. Plus, I could keep it flexible and adaptable. I could change it anytime I wanted. If I needed to add, I would add. If I needed to subtract, I'd subtract. If I needed to focus more on one thing, I'd focus more on one thing. really, it just became something that I could take and I could be proud of. Number 3, practice joyful rest. Sometimes doing nothing is actually doing something. Oftentimes for myself, I feel like there is a constant pressure to constantly be putting in work. The self-help community really pushes this as well. Dependent on who you listen to and what you're listening to. Again, going back to that hustle and that grind thing. But, finding jobs, working out, reading books, meditating. All of these things are things that, if you don't do, you're going to slip back into this world that you didn't want in the first place. The thing that took me a while to figure out was how to intentionally rest. Like many people, self-care to me was a myth. It was something you saw in commercials and TV shows with bubble baths and candles, and none of it really seemed real or valuable to me. But what I eventually came to learn was that self-care is doing something for yourself with intention. And once I saw it that way, everything began to change. The things I do now, meditating, journaling, fishing, hiking, I felt like none of them counted unless they were all moving me forward in my mental wellness. The moment I stopped putting intention behind these things and I just started doing them because I liked them, that's when they stopped feeling like a chore, like a checklist, something that I had to do every single day to feel better. And that's when they started to actually feel like care. And joyful rest doesn't have to be complicated. It's just something you're choosing intentionally to do for yourself, not to be productive, but because it makes you feel good and feel better about yourself. If you're still curious about self-care, if this is something that you have always wanted to explore, a simple way for me to change my mindset around self-care is pick one thing that you already enjoyed doing this week and just do it. Do it with no goal. If you can, something that really helps me is having the ability to be whimsical. In those moments where I have nothing to do, that's maybe when I will go and do something that I like. Don't track it. Don't measure it. You don't need to work on yourself. Just rest on purpose. So to conclude my video, here is the truth. Working on yourself isn't bad, but if it's starting to feel heavy and if it's starting to feel like work, take a step back and reflect. Growth doesn't always have to look like a grind. Sometimes it looks like giving yourself permission to just stop fixing and just exist, just be. But what do you think about self-help? Is there a dark side? Is self-help good, bad in general? Is it something that you practice in your own mental wellness journey? Is there anything that you would add? Is there anything that you would take away? Is there anything that you would change? Let me know in the comments below. For more on peer support and mental wellness, check out the rest of the videos on my channel or head to my website where I post things like blogs and content weekly. And if you know someone who needs a reminder that growth doesn't always have to look like a grind, feel free to share this with them. Who knows, maybe it'll add value to their life as well. Until next time, I'm Jeff Turner, and remember to take care of yourself however that looks to you.